Welcome back to MSP Confidential, folks. It's Friday again. I'm your host, Luis Giraldo, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast here. I'd like to welcome our very special guest this week, Pinar Ormeci, CEO of Lexful. Welcome to MSP Confidential. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit today. How have you been?
Thanks so much, Luis, for having me. I'm doing well, thank you. It's
So,
great weather in Miami.
yes, you're in Miami now. We were actually chatting backstage a little bit about your background. You are Turkish originally. You've been in Miami or in the US for a number of years. How did you get from Turkey to Miami or to the US?
Yeah, it's been a long journey in the sense that I've been in the tech industry for a long time now. My background is in electrical engineering, and like a lot of students, I found myself in the US for grad school. So I went to UMass Amherst as an engineer. I started working at Qualcomm as systems engineer, so I lived in San Diego for a while. I moved into the business side. So I worked in very large companies like Qualcomm, Ericsson, and since 2018, I've been exclusively in the startup world. And for the last 5 years, I have been in the MSP space. And
Mm.
Louis, let me tell you, I love it. Like I really love the MSP community, the industry, how different it is working with enterprises, the sales cycle, the decision makers versus how community driven things are in the MSP space, even with the vendors, even for the vendors, right? I just love being in this space. But
I
so
love
that's the
it.
journey yeah.
Well, your guys are having a big week. Your CEO at Lexful, I think a lot of people have not heard of Lexful thus far because you guys have been kind of in stealth a little bit for the last little while, but also starting to hint a lot at your launch, which just happened this week at Ride Boom. So tell me a little bit more about Lexful. What is Lexful and what does Lexful do?
Yeah, no, it has been a crazy week, and we are really amazed with the welcome. And there's a reason for that because we are the response to a deeply rooted, one of the long-standing problems, I would say, in the MSP space, and that is documentation. How documentation traditionally has been done, and the industry has been looking for a new way to do documentation. So Lexful is our answer to that. Basically, we are the AI native documentation purpose built for MSPs from the ground up, deeply rooted in AI.
Deeply rooted in AI. I feel like this is obviously we already know AI is a seismic shift across many different categories of tools of apps. It's been a gold rush for people to figure out how to work and build AI into their products more organically and natively. I've not yet had the chance to be involved with the company that built with AI forward mentality from the ground up. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about what that's been like, because I think it maybe challenges some of all the like limiting beliefs and ideas of building a company and running a company to have to do it an entirely different way with this AI forward mindset. So I'm just curious to help get you to talk to me a little bit through that mindset and that ideation process.
Yeah, excellent question. To your point, not only we have an AI native product, we also built the company in an AI native way. And what I mean by that is we try to, anytime we have to repeat things, we create an AI agent for it. When it comes to creating documents, every document that we create is structured so that it is easily feedable into the AI. One of the first people we hired was a data and operations lead to make sure company-wide everything we were doing was fit for purpose to be able to fuel the AI agents, like from discovery, right? So we built Lexful out on the field together with our design partners, right? So we're talking about a product from day one that was under constant iteration, talking with design partners, talking with founder circle members. a lot of discovery calls, a lot of conversations. So how do you make sure everything that is captured in these conversations is immediately feedable to the product team, to the right people, right? So this really happens. This is one of the beauties of AI, that these things are not lost. You make sure that they're easily searchable, discoverable, if you do things AI first from the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's been an adventure.
I love this part of the design partner conversations because at ScalePad we have a lot of those as well as we're kind of ideating on new functionality and features. And I do find it's always interesting when you're trying to skip or hop over a certain expectation of functionality or process or way of doing things to an entirely new way that maybe people have never thought about. I wonder if that kind of impedes a little bit of how MSPs that you talk to think about what you're trying to achieve here and whether they are in their own way to some extent and not kind of making this leap forward that you need them to make. Tell me a little bit about that leap or that chasm that exists where they need to cross over.
Yeah, 100%. It's it's kind of, let's say you were using iPhone and now you move to Android phone, right? Like even there, like the first couple of days, you're like, what the heck? I used to push this button and something used to happen. So people also are kind of resistant to change. We all have a way of using our computers, our phones, our tools, and now, especially in a platform like documentation where technicians live in it, right? So it's such a daily operational workhorse, and everything that you're doing, especially when it comes to user experience, UX, the flow, is going to have some impact on how they do things. So those conversations definitely happened, and everybody has their own opinions, right? Like, hey, documents need to exist, or maybe they should live in folder, or hey, maybe tagging them and be able to filter and immediately search is the way to go. And of course, we have our own opinions in where we want the product to go. So it's one of those things. You can't have every feature into the product. Like I was the CEO of another channel first vendor before I joined Lexful. So I've been through this journey building a product from 0 to 1 and, 1 and above. Like, if you try to put every feature, everything that everybody wants, that product will be so bloated that the efficacy of that tool is not going to be there. So I think the sweet spot is, let's find out those features that are used by 80-90% of the people, so fundamental, right? Make sure they are there. Keep things streamlined. The UX is extremely important for a tool like ours. Like, how do you make sure people don't have to click a lot, like move across tabs a lot and so on? But this is a paradigm shift. Like, let's not kid ourselves, right? What is the meaning of even a documentation, Luis? Like, if the way you interact with knowledge now is just through a AI as UI type of interface, right? Like, and then if you can create documents in real time based on a template that you want, based on the role that you have, is there even a document the way we know it? You know what I mean? It's all about like not boiling the ocean too much, but allowing also us to move into an AI first world.
Well, you mentioned data structure and how, at least on the internal company basis, you kind of have thought about structuring data so it can be fed into the AI and the LLMs in certain ways. And I was curious, like, if part of like building a product like this is part of the objective is to obviate a bit of the requirements for data structure for MSPs in the process of documenting knowledge. Like, I think we have very interesting constraints around how we tend to organize information in our heads versus how it needs to be organized in a system, and how we're accessing it is changing. How are you guys thinking about like literally challenging the status quo on how people think about organizing information, and what are some of the challenges there?
I think once the MSPs start using Lexful a couple of days, all those old notions of how things should have been done or we were getting to do it versus how easy and instantaneous things are just by asking Lex. So basically the main interface into everything we do at Lexful is through this feature, which is Ask Lex, that you can go ask a contextual question like, hey, what was the admin password for this client, or the network diagrams, or the devices that needs patching. So you get an instant answer, permission aware, anchored in the right client. Is so game changing versus having to go to folders, to the assets, and having to know exactly what you're looking for. Honestly, like, we don't see any pushback because it's game changing in how you find information with natural queries. And the thing that's working on our favor is, I mean, even if you go into a URL or Google these days, like let alone ChatGPT or any other LLM tools, we forgot to do keyword search now, right? Like nobody does this Boolean keyword search. Even on the URL, you ask like, hey, if is grape dangerous for my dogs? You don't say like dog and grape, you know? So I think we have it going on our favor that people are already so used to searching things in natural plain English that we're just giving them a way to do it now in their own fundamental tools.
Yeah, interesting. I think one of the terms you guys have been using is this concept of knowledge ops. And I was obviously documentation plays a big role. I think I got to be part of a company that where documentation kind of shifted from optional to required, and I think it was a very interesting time in seeing MSPs kind of rise to that. Yeah, we can no longer operate without this data layer available to us. And I think KnowledgeOps maybe introduces a whole other operational layer to that. Tell me about the concept of KnowledgeOps. How is that different than just, plain old documentation?
We believe the legacy documentation tools, obviously, to your point, they served a big purpose when they were first brought into market, but ultimately they were built for storage, and they were built for keyword search. They were not built for automation. They were not built for fueling AI agents. They were not built for AI to seamlessly and safely operate in it, right? Being able to bring the right context at exactly the right point that you needed without exiting the workflow. So that's how we start moving from like documentation and storage into a knowledge operations or an AI operating layer, if you will, that as the MSPs are moving from managed service providers into managed intelligence providers, you really need to also bring the tools into the modern AI era. And that really happens when you put knowledge to work for you 24/7. So I think that's what we mean with knowledge operations. So before just storing data, and now you put that data to work in a way that is contextual, that is autonomous, that you can immediately reach without having to like go through folders and so on. So that's really the it. Like the knowledge operations for us is the central intelligence layer, that one command center. Sorry, my dogs came just a second. Go on, guys, come on. Come on, guys, come on. Out, out, out. Richard, out. I apologize for I work from my home office, and
Hey, it's life
so
happening in real time. I love it.
exactly. But yeah, so that is the knowledge operations. Like the data needs to start working for you, and you need to be able to operate on the knowledge wherever you are,
Yeah.
and at the instant that you need it.
I think what's interesting is maybe the expectation of what kind of systems or training or introduction or education MSPs need in a knowledge ops platform versus a documentation platform. I think maybe the expectation of being able to interact with something with natural language, the way you're describing, removes some of those onboarding barriers for MSPs. I'm curious what conversations you're having about this really real challenge of getting a new MSP hire up to speed quickly enough on information, knowledge, context about clients and such. Have you already seen a bit of the realization through some of the early founder circle conversations about that?
Oh yeah, when we talk with our design partners, from the CEOs all the way to the technicians, right? So this is not just a technician thing we're solving. And I'll get into also, hey, what about the business problems we're solving? I mean, people are giddy with excitement. I'm not like exaggerating here with like the ability to do things in a way that they never could do before, right? So if you look into the documentation platforms, there are a couple of fundamental pain points that we kept hearing over and over. The number one is search is fundamentally broken, like literally broken. It does not work. They cannot find what they're looking for. And then after literally 5 minutes of not being able to what they're looking for, they go to Teams, they go to chat, and they have to interrupt someone else to try to find what they're looking for. And that results in switching context, wasted time. The other person might not even be available. You waste time trying to find a solution. So that is fundamentally broken, and now we are fixing that once and for all. The other big thing is the manual updates, right? So nobody, unless you're consciously, after every ticket, every client conversation, when you're learning something new, there's a different context, right? You solved a new problem. You go back and update the knowledge base, update the SOP, update the runbook. That document gets stale as soon as it's written. So what ends up happening is at some point, the technicians stop trusting the documents they have, right? There are multiple versions of it, the change drift, nobody took care of. So even the docs that you have, you don't trust it. So everything becomes tribal knowledge. So this is also a fundamental problem because it's always living in someone's head. God forbid if that person leaves, now like, hey, your IP is gone out the window, right? And then the third thing, which we also solve, like with the Lexful, one of the key things where we are where we want to take this platform is the knowledge is continuously autonomous. So as the things are taught, the gaps are detected between what exists and what's been discussed. And if there is a gap, those information is automatically trickled back to the knowledge. So the next time you have to have that conversation, you're not solving that problem twice. And also the AI is now contextually richer, right? So this like the autonomous knowledge documents that write and rewrite themselves. So that is literally in our fast follow roadmap. So currently we have the search fundamentally fixed through natural language queries, like through Ask Lex. We restructured all the existing documents that the MSPs have, and then the sky is the limit, like with what you can do with knowledge operations and an AI operating layer. Coming back to the problems we solve, Luis, to your point, like onboarding new employees, right? It's for everybody. It's such a pain. It takes at least 6 to 8 weeks. With Ask Lex now, the junior technicians or the new employees, they can get instantaneous answers on, hey, how do we do this? Like, how do we onboard? Like, what is the SOP? Where can I find the passwords? Like, what is the thing that works in this MSP? So the onboarding from months, it really becomes to the first week or so. Yeah.
That's very cool. I think one of the interesting things that AI products are maybe unlocking, not just for the vendors that are building products with AI native capabilities, but also I think there's this whole layer of the capabilities that are being unlocked for MSPs to go do things that they can easily build with agents, vibe coding, and so on. How are you guys thinking about this like MSP layer? And maybe it's too early for that at this stage, but I notice it with ScalePad that as we build out some of the functionality, we're assuming or expecting that MSPs will be able to build things more quickly on their own to kind of bring our data from our platform into their own needs and their own data layers and their own reporting much more quickly than ever before. Because you don't need to have sort of a data export anymore to go and build these crazy integrations. Now somebody on Lovable can go build an integration between the things they need and put it up as long as the data is available. So what expectation are you kind of building internally as to what MSPs will be able to do to complement this knowledge ops data source, if you will?
Yeah, if you look into some of the latest stats, 93 of the MSPs, 93% of the MSPs are saying that AI is fundamental to their growth strategy, right, moving forward. But then you ask the same MSPs, so what's keeping you from going to this full AI adoption? And 90% of them say it's the quality of our data. And why is that? Because AI needs structured, clean data as fuel, right? So structured data is the oxygen that fuels the AI agent, the automation, the workflows. If you have unstructured text lying around across different tools, different places in people's head, that's not the right starting point to get into a fully automated workflow, both internally, right, to increase your operational efficiency, but also to create these AI-driven revenue work streams. So I think that is another fundamental thing we are solving, because we structure data in a way that is easily feedable to both Lexful, but also to all the automation, the other system of action platforms out there. Yeah, so that's absolutely one of the key use cases for us, that we make it so much easier for the MSP to generate new AI revenue streams, or use workflows for internal efficiencies with structured, clean data that they can easily utilize.
Are you finding that MSPs, especially in this early phase, and we've had exposure to AI for a couple of years now, and I think there's enough challenges with data cleanliness, hallucinations, and such that maybe there's a trust layer that is kind of impeding them a little bit as they come into a Lexful conversation. How are you finding the transition from not trusting data to trusting data is happening, and what are some of the proof points that you're seeing come out from that equation that suddenly releases them to be like, ah, finally I can trust the data? Because I'm sure this trust piece is kind of critical to whether the MSP can actually move forward with something like this comfortably or not, right? And unleash it to their teams, so to speak.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there are two aspects to this, right? Like, what is the security itself? Like, hey, is my data training other stuff, or is it going to the wild world? Because client data is as sensitive as it gets, right? Or the MSP is their own secret sauce, the way they are doing things as a competitive differentiation. So security is number one. And then number two, to your point, is hallucinations. Hey, the stuff that AI is bringing up, can I really trust that? So I'll start with security. In our case, security is fundamental. Like, we, from day one, built everything on zero trust security framework. I was the CEO of a SASE company before Lexful, so security is personal to me. I know firsthand the disastrous consequences if you don't do things right. So we use SASE internally ourselves. We have a never trust, always verify posture. Everything is encrypted at rest, in transit, and all of that. And in fact, we're getting into SOC 2 Type 2 compliance audit next week, with the hope of getting our compliance certificate before the end of the first half of this year. That's the earliest we could get it. So that's how important we're taking security. For us, AI is not a bolt on, and then security is not an afterthought. So number one, that's the thing. Let's talk about now that the trust, but even before that, I'm just going to also add the privacy, right? Because that's also really important.
Yeah.
So when it comes to privacy, guys, for the MSPs, your data is yours. Like, we are not here to hoard your data or use your data to train a generic AI. Your data is only used to give you instant access to information that is yours. So, like, if they don't like Lexful, if they want to get out of Lexful, you can always do, like, very easy. Because I heard also this pain point, right? They want to leave tools and they can't, because the data is somehow, like, it's not very easily exportable. So for us, your data belongs to you. We are very clear on that, and we never use it to train AI. So the AI, the models we use, they have general knowledge, and then we use your documentation to give information to you, utilizing, several things like RAG and the metrics. And so I'm the CEO, I'm not the CTO, but as far as I know, so we use the latest and greatest to give you contextual, accurate information. If it's not in your document, you will not get like answers that's not there, and the data is private. So now the final thing, let's talk about the trust. I mean, AI is AI, so there has to be human in the loop at all times. You can of course put guardrails on it. You can always come with like a trust factor, right? Like you can have, hey, if you like this, if this information was correct, give a thumbs up, thumbs down. You can have a accuracy factor. Hey, we believe that 95% this data is accurate, and all of those things. But I think with AI, it is important that a trust and verified posture needs to exist for the future. Let's say for the near future or to whatever future it takes, that we can always trust AI. But I don't think that if AI is fundamentally artificial intelligence and the way it's built is. You can try to minimize it, but it's in the nature of it.
You mentioned systems of action earlier, and this whole time I've been wondering, whether we are kind of on this path where most AI systems or AI native systems maybe start out as a system of record, system of information, and are all on the path to become a system of action. Have you thought about a bit of this system of action component, and where KnowledgeOps plays a little bit of that role? Like, do you envision a world where the context that you extract from tickets and things like that, and mind you, you may already have this in the product because I haven't had the chance to get a closer look, but being able to go and update information that is verifiably updated, based on context, tickets, and things that are happening. I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, so we are in the market as a solid system of record, the master record that the MSP can trust, and search answers and get answers instantaneously. So obviously, the answers will be richer if you have more context, right? If you have more information, if you have more history, like that operational memory. The more operational memory you have, the better answers you will get. So we are the system of record. We replace your legacy existing documentation tool. We migrate whatever you have, we restructure, retransform it so that everything is contextual, relationship are established so that the AI can really work in it. And then we integrate into other platforms, right? Like the fundamentals are, of course, the RMM and the PSA, because one of the documentation tool fundamentals is you use it to do structured asset management. So to get those assets, to keep them fresh, we are integrated into the RMM and the PSA tools. But then what comes next, right? Like for the system of record, like I said, the richer you are, the better your answers will be. So we don't do any execution from the product, but we can give you answers that makes it much easier for you to execute or like take that into a system of action. Like one very classic example, we can write you a disaster recovery runbook, right? But then you don't run that runbook inside Lexful, but we can integrate into Zofig or another system of action, and then you can easily execute that runbook, right? Like, so that's the way we are thinking of it. But when you have an integration into PSA, obviously we want to have the contextual ticket information too, right? Like if we can also bring all the tickets into the system of record, so that we have that context as well. Like we can give you a lot of insights, trends, the problems that's already solved in a way. Now you can use that to solve this. Like the sky is the limit, Luis. Like, I mean, yeah.
Now, maybe some of the, I'm going to maybe use a not a friendly term for this, but some of the virtue signaling that MSPs we have done in years past, and I'm going back maybe 10 years, around the birth of documentation to some extent, is that seems to be MSPs that are in one of two camps. The documentation is proprietary and it's kind of like a moat for them to some extent. And there's the camp that is documentation, it belongs to the client. It's their data, their information, and so on. And I've kind of always been a little ambivalent between those two things. And I'm curious how you're thinking about the role that Lexful plays on the end client landscape, if at all, or how some of the MSPs in your early founder circle are talking about this. Because I think part of what's interesting about the relationship between MSPs and clients is that they also, like MSPs also want to make information available to their clients. And this kind of rich context is something that the clients themselves can't do because they don't have a lot of the tools that have all this context. And so tell me a little bit about that client layer, so to speak, and what access do you envision them having ultimately to this kind of context?
100%. And this is the reason why we say that we are documentation for the AI era. We don't say IT documentation for the AI era, because we believe that SMBs themselves are underserved when it comes to how you can do documentation and all the things that's available, right, with AI. They don't have the same budgets the enterprises have to go and get enterprise tools, right? Like maybe they can do things in a way the enterprises can do today, but they don't have the budget for that. And of course, all of the small, medium businesses, they rely on their MSPs, right? So as Lexful, we are channel first. So we don't compete with our MSPs. We're not going directly to small, medium businesses to sell Lexful. Having said that, the MSPs, absolutely, right? Not only they can use Lexful to manage all their clients with a solid documentation tool that is richly live with AI functionality, but they can expose also the client's documentation to the client at a minimum to ask Lex, right? So on day one, like our Lexful, basically they can give self-service help center with AI native search to their clients, and is part of the license fee. So I mean, even that is game changing, right? That is something that reduces the ticket volume when it comes to, hey, what the heck was my password? I forgot my password, blah, blah. So now the client can go and actually do that L1 desk thing in native plain English, directly being able to ask Lexful. But that's just a start, right? If you expose the full Lexful functionality to the small, medium business, and they can create their own documents, like they can solve their own tickets, they can manage their own passwords, or you can co-manage the documentation together with the client. So that's also something that's evolving. But yeah, we 100% believe that the MSPs will be able to monetize this rich documentation solution, which is actually more knowledge operations now, right? Like the knowledge operations is very valuable for all types of businesses, including small, medium businesses.
This is super interesting because I've had so many conversations about, the shifting role of the MSP in this AI era. Not just obviously a tool like this that maybe repositions a bit of what the function of the MSP is in the eyes of the client. Because if they can now self-serve a lot of what used to require a bunch of help desk technicians to solve, where does the MSP go and refocus some of that energy and time and resourcing? And so I find that super interesting as a starting point. And I think there's a lot of assumptions that people come into, like, to explore a new tool. The pain points that bring them there are probably varied and different. I'm curious to ask you, what are some of the most interesting assumptions that people have kind of entered a Lexful conversation around that found immediately torn down by something that was just so different or so unexpected?
Yeah. So, when you talk with MSPs, some love this self-service center, by the way, but that some say, oh no, we actually, our clients hire us to do this. We don't want them solving their solutions. We want that customer intimacy. We want actually them to call us, which is fine, guys. Then you just don't give access, right? Everything is up to you. We just give you the ability, if you want, be able to bring clients in a read-only way, so they can ask questions using our AI interface. But if you don't want to expose that, it's completely up to the MSP. So I just want to make sure that I mention that, because we go with how the MSP wants to operate.
Mm.
Like the MSPs are surprised actually how fundamentally game changing Ask Lex is, like being able to have immediate information at your fingertips. So I'll give you one specific example. I was talking with the CEO of an MSP, one of our design partners, and they are super excited on moving to Lexful, as you know, now that we launched. So he was saying, like, Pinar, you guys don't understand. This is not even for the technician. Like, as the CEO, I have a lot of client conversations, and not even QBR, right? Like, you're the CEO, you talk with your clients. Before, I had to find the account manager, find the customer success person, so that I'm not going blind to these conversations, and ask, like, hey, what's going on with these guys? Like, where are we? Like, what's the tickets we solve? Like, so there's a lot of context that you need to feel buttoned up, to look professional before you talk to the business owner, right? And now he's like, I have this PhD chief of staff sitting on my shoulder and just telling me like everything I need to know without me having to search for the right person to give me the right context before I talk with this person. Like, and he's like, this is incredible. So small things like that they didn't even realize, like they'd start using it, and how heavily they start relying on their phones. Like, it's not like you have to be on a laptop, so you can just use Ask Lex anywhere you are, get this immediate refresher on what the heck is going on before you talk to someone. And of course, like the same thing, other thing is for client preps, just for the QBRs. Now you can have a virtual CIO functionality, and you can be like really prepared, right? Because you can get every information you need packaged nicely before these important client meetings. So there's so many use cases people are discovering, in addition to just like, hey, solving tickets really fast, which is immediate use case,
Yeah.
of course.
So interesting, Pinar. I'm looking forward to seeing sort of this transition, maybe those aha moments kind of happening in real time as people kind of release themselves from some of those limiting beliefs and old ideas and ways of doing things. You know, the compartmentalized way of organizing data and information. I have found just through this AI, increasing or evolving AI fluency of my own, day to day, that I've started to think much more broad like that too. The way I think about ideas, the way I search for things, the way that I connect concepts between one thing and the other is so much more fluid. It lives a lot more in the gray area too, but also I see how important it is to have the context for the data systems that know my history. They start to tune answers to how I have all been operating. So this is an exciting time to be alive, no doubt.
It's really amazing. I mean, I share the same sentiment. Like, what a time to be alive, right? Like, it's that we're old enough to remember like the internet days, right? Like how insanely amazing it was when we suddenly could search anything we wanted instead of going to an encyclopedia, right? Like, we used to have like books to read about stuff, and when like we were able to search it on the internet, how incredible it was. And now, like, it's the same seismic shift that I think the humans are having to come to terms with.
Yeah, no, this is very exciting. Well, first of all, congratulations on the launch. I think it's an exciting time for sure. I'm looking forward to following a bit of the progress and seeing how this is shifting expectations and behaviors. Actually, speaking of behaviors, one last question before we bring our time today to a close is this idea of behaviors. And I find that, I spoke about AI fluency. AI fluency in a way is a bit of a behavior. It's kind of like a bit of an expectation shift as a user of tools and AI things. But I feel like some tools like the legacy documentation platforms kind of relied a bit on certain behaviors. And I wonder how you factor in behaviors, or maybe the lack of need for behaviors into this kind of future forward AI driven thing? Because it feels like in some ways it's removing the guardrails of expected behaviors for people. Tell me a bit about that behavioral approach.
Yeah, 100%. You know, because of the limitations of the legacy tools, people had to learn how to access information, right? Like there were like certain ways that you tried to be able to get what you need, and now with Ask Lex, the only thing you do is like literally you go, just like ChatGPT is completely trained on your own documentation, private, and you just ask, right? And it's just immediate. I think we're giving people the freedom and to be able to access things instantly from anywhere. So it's game changing. But the good news is people will be able to get used to it really fast because they're already trained from now using AI, right? Like they're already very trained using all these LLM tools. And we discussed this, like now, even if you go to a URL or a Google, the way you search is already in native plain English. So I think that learning already has happened. Now that they're just gonna be able to use that in their day-to-day operation. So that's why they're just like fundamentally excited versus feeling anxious or, oh my God, like now I need to learn this new tool. Like that's literally how easy it is.
Yeah, very cool. Well, once again, Pinar, congratulations to you and the team. I'm looking forward to seeing lots more of Lexful out in the channel and the events and all that stuff. Where can people find out more information about Lexful right now?
Sure. You can go to our website, www.lexful.ai. So you can ask for a demo. You can start a free trial. We are very MSP friendly. Literally, we are channel first, like I said. We have only one goal, and that's to bring documentation into the modern AI-driven era. Yeah, so let's do a demo. Let's give you a free trial. It's very easy, migration without mayhem. You know, if you don't like Lexful, you can always keep your existing tool with no risk. So yeah, we're super excited, guys. Like, give us a try, and if you don't like it, our feelings won't get hurt. But we really are here to innovate and to help MSPs accelerate their AI journey.
Awesome. Pinar, thank you so much for joining me, spending a little bit of your day hanging out and telling me about Lexful and our audience about Lexful. Folks, this is Pinar Ormeci from Lexful. Thank you for joining us at MSP Confidential. We're here every Friday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll hope you join us for the next one. Until then, ciao for now. Bye.
Thank you, Luis.